Assalamu alaikum. So do you want me to get started now? Okay. Brother Muzammil is passing around just a sample, kind of a newsletter that I do in my district for the service center I created. But for many of you, I'm just going to do a really quick, brief overview of who I am and how long I've been serving in the legislature. So I'm Rashida Tlaib. I'm born and raised in Detroit. I'm Palestinian American of Muslim faith. Many people know I'm the eldest of 14. So you may have run into my brother Rashid or Ibrahim or Ayman or Rashad. I can continue. But I became very active with nonprofit organizations similar to CAIR, who did a lot of advocacy and civil rights work. And that got me introduced into understanding the legislative process and learning how to, in my words, kill a bill. It seems like I think all of us Muslims, no matter our background, may us be black Muslims, Arab Muslims, South Asian Muslims, whatever it is, we seem to be much more reactive rather than proactive in regards to probably anti, our folks, our community legislation. One of the biggest lessons I learned early on when I started getting active on doing legislative advocacy work is that English-only legislation. So many of you may not have remembered, but there was this huge push in the Michigan legislature where they wanted to make English official language. Well, big deal. I kind of think English is our official language, so it's not a big deal, right? But if you really started reading the bill, it basically would have prevented the Secretary of State from translating documents. It may have prevented some of the DHS offices, human services offices, hospitals that may be receiving funding from the state. So it really trickled down and was a slippery slope in that it was going to prevent and cut off and create a challenge and a barrier to, especially my community in Southwest Detroit, where we had 20 different ethnicities, so many different languages, and people really relied on the translation of those important documents so they can better understand the services and understand how government works. And so one of the lessons I learned was, as it came up for it, I thought, oh my God, it just passed. I didn't understand, everybody watched that little Sesame Street clip of how a bill becomes a bill. Well, it's very similar to that. So when the bill got introduced, it goes to a committee process. And I know Brother Harris and Muzammil know this, but the committee process is very key in all the work that we've been doing in understanding how to basically be able to advocate for the bill to either change or kill it. I like killing them. Or try in many ways build that partnership and understanding why, if it's going to pass, this is what the impact will be. So you always have to understand who's on the committee, what committee it's in, and so forth. I remember English only, and I was a proud Democrat, I'm still am, very active Democrat, and I actually approached a Republican state senator, Laura Toy, from Livonia, and I remember we took her out to lunch, and we said, you're the chair of this committee and so forth, this bill is coming to you. She didn't know the bill was in her committee, had no idea, was amazingly supportive. She was like, well, I am very familiar about the importance of translation documents. She just told me the story because at some point, somebody in the community, I think it was St. Mary's Church, had already built a relationship with her to understand the importance of being much more welcoming as a state. And making English as official language would have hurt her constituents in her community who already was proactive, already had invited them to a very predominantly as mostly known as a Palestinian Christian church in Livonia. And she was completely supportive and at a lunch meeting said, don't worry, I'm never going to take this bill up for a hearing. And that's good news because when a bill doesn't get a hearing, it doesn't get a vote, it basically dies after 2 years in committee. And most legislatures around the country actually work that way, and that it has to go through a committee process. Or if you're Governor Snyder, you kind of skip that process and run it through the House and the legislature, but that's just my opinion. But he's done it a few times. So one of the things that I want to encourage you all as being the only Muslimah in the state legislature, it is something that kind of is increasingly becoming more frustrated for me, because as term limits are here, I may be gone. You know, if I don't get through the state Senate elections successfully, there will not be somebody of Muslim faith in the legislature. And I don't even know if we even have staff that are of Muslim faith. I can't tell. There's one guy I'm like, maybe, but I don't want to stereotype. Why it's, you know, in committee once, I was offering an amendment for a cultural integration program. It was something that was very important to my district, but also because my family, my mother and my father benefited from that service that helped nonprofits provide social services to newly arrived immigrants. And when I offered the amendment, the chair of the committee recognized me. Thank you, Chairman, for recognizing me. He said, go ahead, and I offered the amendment, and I said, this is important because as somebody that's, because he's anti-immigrant, so I said, somebody is born in this country, I indirectly benefited from this, and he interrupts me and asks me for my birth certificate as a joke. But it doesn't stop there. I also, you know, as I go and meet people, not only in the legislature, but also residents and families, many of them have never, ever, ever met a Muslim. We tend to kind of isolate ourselves in particular issues, may it be foreign relations, which was my family, or, you know, specifically only target things that I think in many ways isolates us so much from every other issue that's happening. There is so much going on with women's rights issues right now in Michigan. We are the state that is being targeted by female-led organizations in DC are literally pumping money into our state because they are seeing less women in the legislature. They're seeing this kind of disinvestment into promoting or helping women thrive in our state and creating these barriers to women's access to health care. And this is even beyond abortion, which we're not going to talk about. It gets worse than that. It is literally targeting women and access to health care. And there are practically no Muslimah in the room when we're talking about that issue. Not one, even though we have so many that are in the medical field, so many that are very active and professionally in that area, they are not engaging people that are in the Michigan legislature on this issue. All of you do not probably live in Dearborn, so you're like me, you live in a community where you're probably the minority. So I'm the only Muslim, I think, on my block. In my neighborhood in Spring Wells Village in Southwest Detroit. I think that many of you might think, well, how am I going to just show up to a block club meeting, a school board meeting, a meeting where the state rep or state senator or someone is having a town hall? You should see the face when I'm like, oh, you know that your state representative has coffee hours. Some Muslims look at me like, oh, you know, don't you have, I said, no, you can go to the coffee hour and ask, what do you think about the anti-Sharia law? I hope you're not going to support it. And they look at me like they're completely intimidated by going to the coffee hour. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Did anybody know that your state legislators have like coffee hours and events and town halls in their district? How many of you know that? Okay, you can literally go up in their website and sign up for their e-news and they will announce that they're having it. For me, I get a lot of diversity because I travel through the district, but a lot of my colleagues say the same 10 people show up at the coffee hours every single time. And there's not a lot of diversity. They tell me it's the same people, same color skin, there's not a sense of diversity at all in them engaging their residents on things that are making huge, huge impact on your lives. So I want to encourage all of you that one of the things that I tell my residents is I don't hear from them enough. That I'm accessible. Here's my cell phone. Your elected officials may not all do that, but you should not at all be intimidated in contacting them at all. It should not just be me going to a state representative yelling at them because they said something that was anti-Muslim. It should be you all calling them and saying, what are you doing? How many of you have emailed or written to the Republican Party about what Ajima said? Do you know what Ajima said? Anybody know? Yeah, some of you know. Okay, I cannot believe some of you don't know this racist said what he said. Okay, so there is a guy that's in the Republican National Committee, and it's not a Republican-Democratic issue because even some of the Republicans have actually called him out, including Senator Khan, who I left a long message for, who called him out on the Senate floor last week. He did an amazing job. He's of Jewish faith. And he called out and said that Dave Ajema, who said some of the most racist, said that Muslims, you won't see them doing charitable work. You know, how do you, basically un-American comments that we all are not at all compassionate, that we're not charity-giving people. We are not, that he basically excluded us and said, look at all these Catholic and Christian-based organizations. Have you ever seen a Muslim wearing candy stripe, whatever it is, in hospitals? And they, in completely stereotyping this, but also saying this is the same gentleman that asked me for my birth certificate in committee, by the way. So this is the same gentleman that sponsored the anti-Sharia law. But now he's in a different position. He is a leader within the Republican Democratic Party. And all of you, young people, need to get him either to resign or push him out. It's so important because I always think about my son Adam hearing that comment. It scares me to death. If he ever heard somebody say something like that, it would make him feel like, well, maybe we don't do that. I've heard my sister and brothers and sisters who grew up being still in school when 9/11 happened, and some of the anti-Muslim and anti-Arab comments that were coming out of the media and so forth, it made them feel less proud of their identity. Now, some people, it's the opposite. They come out even more proud of their identity, but not everybody lives in Dearborn. That's why I tell people, because in Dearborn, you probably felt the safest. No, I'm being serious. Outside, it is hard, especially for my Muslim sisters who wear the hijab. It is hard being out there when comments are like this made. I think it's your responsibility, it's your duty as Muslims to email about Ajema's comments, to ask for his resignation. You have every right as an American to say this is un-American, unpatriotic, this is hate speech. Because you never know with Ajema's comments or the people like Ajema when they make these comments that it would lead to violence. It will lead to violence. I believe that in my heart, that as we push people to hate certain people because of their background or their ethnicity, it will turn into deaths, into violence. And so I'm asking all of you to not be afraid to engage your elected officials. That when you hear things like anti-Sharia laws or something, don't assume, you know, oh, well, Rashida's there, because somebody said, well, you're there. I said, well, don't assume, because I'm not joking when I tell you, if it wasn't for Muzama Ahmad or CAIR and Dawood and the leadership and Haris, all of us collectively worked it. We really did. We did meetings. We came in and met with the chair. And it is important, though, on the outskirts, if you live in certain districts, that you're engaging them. Even if you call their office and say, hey, my name is Sarah. I'm a Muslim American in your community. And I know that, you know, I honestly have not been that engaged. But I really want to know when's the next time the state representative is having their coffee hour. I would like to come and talk to him how he felt about the comments by Ajema. Or what does he think about the funding levels on education or healthcare? Because be diverse in what you talk about too. Because I don't want to always be reactive, but I also want to be the one that say, you know, Governor Snyder, you're talking about this issue with Medicaid expansion. I have a number of doctors that would be able, and I'm thinking of all the phenomenal diverse doctors I've met through this discussion about Medicaid expansion. Some of them hate it, but so there's discussion of trying to include them in the conversation. So also if there's issues around immigration reform, around education rights, around access to health care, a number of things, if it's blight, if it's public safety, if it's taxes, whatever it is, engage your elected officials. It's so important. It makes me proud, I promise you. When I got Charlie, I think it was Charlie Berry from Flint, he was invited to the iftar dinner during Ramadan, and he came up to me. He's like, Rashida. I was like, yes. He never talks to me, so I was like, yes. And he said, listen, I'm going to the mosque. I was like, oh, where? You know, and I was so excited. I was like, oh, I'm the one in Flint. I was like, oh, they're the best because they're the most diverse. If you guys ever been to the Flint Mosque, here there's like the Palestinian mosque, the Yemeni mosque, the Lebanese mosque. In Flint, it's all of them all together. It's so beautiful. And when I walk in, there's like Latinos and African Americans, and it's beautiful array of Muslims. It's the first time I've ever seen anything like that. And Flint Mosque is really to be commended to doing that. And he asked me, like, what am I supposed to say? What is this? I said, well, let me explain Ramadan to you. Let me explain the breaking of fast and so forth. And we got hints. But it really made me proud. I said, they invited you? He goes, yeah, they did. Rarely will they say no when you do invite them to events. So may it be a young Muslim organization or may it be a school or something. You can invite your elected officials to the school to talk about issues, to talk about what they do. Maybe invite them. I get invited all the time for career day. If you're having career day, invite your elected officials, engage them. Let them see that we're just like any other community. I mean, I get them sometimes coming to me, and honestly, you can see it on their face. So why, when your mom came to the House floor, I couldn't shake her hand, and explaining it. I don't think ill of them. I explain it. I talk to them. But you can tell it was their first encounter with that interaction. So it's really, really important that you all are engaged. I got to tell you, too, 2014 is going to be some fun. Not only do we have a governor's race, we have a U.S. Senate race, we have a congressional race in Oakland County and Wayne County. I want to tell you that if you hear the bucket list, if you've ever have things that you should, they say the bucket list, like things you should do before, you're gone. Being part of I'm not joking, being part of a campaign is thrilling. It is so exciting. No, really, I wish Zaid was here, he can tell you. It is so exciting being part of a campaign, coming in and volunteering and being part of it. If you're, some of you guys folks, if you're competitive, I can see it in some of the young, especially the young men in my campaign. I mean, if you're really, really thrilled, the part of being part of a movement for better public service, especially as somebody it is exciting being part of that change. It's exciting being part of a campaign. It's not just the door-to-door, which I absolutely love, but it's also being part of a community. And I love it when my campaigns are so diverse. I love that. But not all campaigns are, and it would be great to see more Muslims walking into some of the campaign offices this summer and helping out with elections and being engaged, making phone calls, and even housing meet and greets at your home. Ask your parents, of course, and things like that. So I just want to encourage you all to be engaged. And, I have all of my elected officials in my community, and I call with fake names, I'm like whatever. Literally in my cell phone, when I want to complain to my city council member, when I want to complain to my mayor, because when I complain, it's like, oh, it's State Rep Rashida Tlaib. No, hey, it's Rochelle from Southwest Detroit, and I cannot believe you haven't fixed the pothole over here and stuff. And just to, really to try to engage, just as a regular mom of 2 boys, I just want to be able to have, a better community and so forth. So I try at all times to engage the people that represent me and really impact my quality of life directly. So with that, I'm going to allow Mazammel to speak. Now, I put this up because this is really important. This is the Michigan Legislative website. You can always go in here and look up bills. On the bottom, you can see that you can click up Michigan House, Michigan Senate, contact your senator. This is so easy. So if you're ever, you probably most go to search engines, you can just go Michigan Legislature and it will come up. Yeah, you can click on different things and find all kinds. And also, yeah, this is amazing. Also, when you can create a login and you can also get notifications. So I used to just go in there when I was an organizer and had my login, and I would want to be notified on anti-Sharia, English only, anti-immigrant bill that I was tracking, and it would send me notices instantly that it was moving or it had a committee hearing or something like that. So it's a really, really great tool for folks that are interested in tracking a bill, and it could be a great school project, or if you're doing some research, this is a great place to start. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. I know everybody here has had a very long day. We really appreciate people coming out, and I really appreciate the organizers for putting everything together. I'm not going to take your time because we have some wonderful speakers yet to come to wrap up the day. But here's what I want to tell you. Most of you are students. And as students, you need to find jobs. You need to get on with your lives and careers. And being involved with a political campaign or a movement of some kind is an essential part of your education. You're going to get your education in your classes, but you're also going to get hands-on education, volunteering, or interning with some of the nonprofits or some of the political campaigns during the next few years. 2014 is critical. There's going to be a lot of big things happening, important races happening, and it'll give you a chance to get out there, whether you're going to law school or want to be a physical therapist or if you want to be an engineer. It doesn't matter. As an employer, when they see that you have been interning, volunteering, sharpening your teeth in these nonprofit arenas, it'll help you a great deal. So that being said, we also need you. The community needs you. We need people to make the phone calls. Rashida's going to need people with her walking around, knocking on doors, organizing events, going out there, serving the community. This will be something that will benefit you. It'll benefit the community. I really encourage you, if you haven't done it already, to go ahead. I see a few people here who have some great internships lined up. Good job, Simon. And a few people who have been interns in the past or worked in our volunteered in the past, and I think that they benefit from it. And so I'm not going to take too much of your time, but I just wanted you to get that one message. How do you do it? That's the next thing. I think pretty much you came here on a wet or a cold, freezing Saturday. Obviously, you're committed. The way you do it is events like this. Make sure you sign up. But when you're done, you have to be persistent. You know, a lot of times you'll find, whether it's Daoud or Rashida or Haris or even Rami, who came all the way from Chicago, everyone's very busy, and you get a ton of emails and a ton of stuff thrown at you every day. But what you have to do is just be persistent. And people who are persistent will get the internship. Well, I mean, that's what they call grit. Just going ahead, trying one email, 48 hours goes by, don't get an answer, call it, send another email, make a phone call. And that itself is almost a training. That persistence will help you get into a lot of new opportunities, will open doors for you. So I just want to encourage you to stay active, keep calling, find out who on the staff might be the person that might be gathering names or deciding who's going to do what. And this will be a great way for you to move ahead, to service the community, and also help yourself. Lastly, we were supposed to talk a little bit about political mobilization, but we all have causes we believe in. That's why we're all here. We have important things that are near and dear, and we want to make a difference. And there's a lot of ways to do that, but in the political arena, you will find you will have probably the largest impact because at the end of the day, rules and changes are made based on policy changes within our country, and these policy changes originate from discussions with state legislatures, discussion with representatives, with policymakers, and so I really encourage you to come in, volunteer with organizations like CAIR, volunteer at places like state reps that are running. You have Gary Peters, you have people on the other side of the aisle, Terry Land running for Senate. There's a lot of opportunities there, and what we want to be able to do is give you a chance to take your whatever skill set you have, plug them into places that are already out there, and give you a great experience where you'll benefit yourself and the community. And that's really about it. Any questions? Anybody interning? Anybody have plans for 2014 already? Put your hand up if you have. Who is looking for something to do for the summer of 2014? Yeah, I mean, guys, this is a great opportunity. So inshallah, make sure you sign up, and make sure you just stay persistent. Look around, check the websites. MMCC with Amina is also in the process of looking for interns. and ISPU, of course, also now has a Dearborn office. They're looking for interns, and both IFA's working there. She'd be happy to take names and numbers. And that's really bad. Any other organizations right now that are representative? I know somebody from Access is here. But great. That's it. And I think I mentioned at CAIR Michigan, where they're taking names right now. They're taking names right now. You've all signed up. And there's a lot of great projects going on in both legal spaces, in looking at working with the government, and obviously doing a lot of voter mobilization. Assalamu alaikum.